morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
In some 30 years or more of having cows calving on our place and looking after other ranches' cattle, Billy and I have sure had our share of unusual calving situations, but this week, Baxter Black describes a situation that very few folks have ever experienced.
And was now holding the heifer's head out of the water as Doc began closing the hide. Then it really began to rain on our shipwrecked cowboys.
On the Rangeland News, will there be more sticker shock when we pay our grocery bills?
So price trends early in the year showing definite downward pressure.
On the Urban Saddles and Western Wear horse training file, I've been talking with a number of folks who are reluctant to turn their horses out in a good-sized pasture for a number of reasons. But I think it can be good for the horses if you do a few things right. And in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, an absolute masterpiece.
To ride a morning circle, catch a fresh one out at noon, and trot him in when day was done to the rising of a moon.
And I'll visit with a couple of very interesting ranchers this week. And surprisingly enough, they are both fine musicians, and they have some thoughts about Western music and poetry.
Probably the sweetest song, the clearest voice, the most perfect message you've never heard, because it's some old boy or off somewhere, they're out back on the port, and they're not playing for anybody else other than just for their own satisfaction.
Well, Don Howard took his rope horse along on his first date that he had with the lady that's now his wife. That story after Matt Robertson starts us off.
Cinch my rig on a bucking horse, and he kicks and fights. I feel a familiar feeling coming on. I push it back one more time, 'cause I've been doing this way too long. Broken bones and opportunities I've missed remind me that I had dreams when I was young, that someday I'd find glory. I never dreamed it would come to this, that someday I'd be too old to carry on. And the trail left by a falling star is gone in an instant. It only shines so brightly for so long. And as I pull my thoughts together and I climb into the saddle, I hear the latch slide open, then I'm gone. Cut my teeth on a bucking horse when I was 14. Though I landed hard, you know, I never cried. Just wiped the blood from my face, I got up again. Mama feared that look in my eyes. Leaving work behind me, sleeping at the wheel. I did not eat so I could pay my fees. If St. Peter walked on water, then I could ride this road hurricane. I keep telling myself that I just gotta believe. The trail left by a falling star is gone in an instant. It only shines so brightly for so long. And as I pull my thoughts together and I climb into the saddle, I hear the latch slide open, then I'm gone. There's a pole corral on a sagebrush flat, I see it in my mind. Dust rises high into the sky, where a cowboy's working horse in the hot desert sun. He throws his rope as a roan runs by, and the trail left by a falling star is gone in an instant. It only shines so brightly for so long. And as I pull my thoughts together and I climb slide open, then I'm gone. And as I climb into the saddle, and I feel him breathe beneath me, I hear the latch slide open, then I'm gone.
There's a good hand. Matt Robertson wins more than his share of bronc riding competitions at ranch rodeos, and Matt will be entertaining at the BC Cattlemen's Convention in Williams Lake, BC, the evening of Friday, May the 24th. Don Howard, good hand too. He ranches in that short grass country of southeastern Alberta, and a few years ago, Don and his wife Carmen celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary on a Spirit of the West cruise.
Don, congratulations, 50 years married to that beautiful lady Carmen. You were just telling us about your very first date. Can you go through that story?
Yeah, I can, Hugh. You know, first date with Carmen didn't go very good. I didn't look like we'd be able to make a go of it. So I asked her out to the drive-in theater. I borrowed my dad's 59 Chev Bel Air car.
Beautiful car.
Yeah, and it'd been a hot week, so down I went with the windows rolled down to pick her up, and we went to the drive-in. The mosquitoes got bad about halfway through the show. We rolled the windows up, and this horrendous odor came into the car. It just filled the car. And I thought, boy, this girl needs to have a lesson in personal hygiene. Unknown to me, she was thinking the same thing about me. Anyway, I drove her home and dropped her off, and the next morning got up and my dad said to me, Donnie, go out and get a box of bones out of the back of the car. I picked them up 3 days ago, and they've been in there in the heat this long.
So can you remember what the movie was?
No, I don't remember. Do you remember the movie, Carmen?
You don't remember what the movie was?
Yeah, I don't remember the movie.
But then there was another date that Carmen was telling us about. That you had.
Well, yeah, I don't know where we'd been with the old half ton with the racks, you know.
The stock
open
rack
racks.
in the back,
yeah. And I had my rope horse in the back, old Buster. And we didn't have time to drop him off anywhere, so I said, well, let's leave him in the back of the truck and we'll go park in the back row.
In the drive-in movie?
In the drive-in movie. So we went in there, and here it turned out to be a real good old Western. They were chasing horses over the hills, and old Buster got excited, and he started stomping in the back, and he was whinnying.
The horses on the screen?
Yeah. And so, anyway, we got home, and I guess Buster was waiting at the truck the next Saturday night to go again.
He really liked it. Yeah. Oh man, I never did that. I don't think I took a horse to a drive-in movie.
No,
never did that. Although one time what I did do was I rolled. You know how they have those speakers on those stands?
Oh yeah.
You put them inside your window.
Yeah.
And you roll the window up. You know, and then you can turn it up or down to hear the sound. Well, the movie was over, and we turned to drive away, and I kind of pulled that whole speaker and the stand with me in the car.
Oh, there's been many of them pulled off.
I think so.
Yeah. But they're few and far between now, those old drive-in theaters.
Yeah.
Well, coming up is another very interesting guy who's a rancher as well as a fine singer and songwriter when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. After listening to Jay Parsons' music for quite some time, it was really nice to meet him in person at the Horsemen's Reunion in Paso Robles, California a while back. That's actually where Billy and I celebrated our 50th anniversary, and, well, I guess that would be 6 years ago now because we just celebrated our 56th. We really enjoyed the Horsemen's Reunion, and Jay told us a lot about his life.
I've run cows for 30 plus years probably, and still run cows and still enjoy that aspect of what I do, but it's a blend of things that I do. It's agribusiness, it's cattle, it's and the music got incorporated into that thing when I realized that other people enjoyed it other than me.
I talk about this with my friends a lot, and there seems to be some of us that were born with I don't know if you'd call it a genetic defect or what, but there's something in us that makes us think we have to have cattle and horses in our lives, and at our stage in life we still do. You know?
Well, it's like one of my good partners says, I haven't heard him say this lately, but at one point in time he says, man can't own too many cattle or too many horses. Now that could probably open up a debate for several hours on whether that's a valid statement, but that's true. It might be a genetic defect.
Well, when I see the kind of horses that some of these trainers have brought along to work their colts on, and I see the kind of horses that Kelly and Russell and these guys are riding doing the commentary, and I was just saying to Billy, you know, if money and time was no object, man, we don't have near enough horses on the place. I want to get a few like that.
Well, yeah. You know, getting a hold of a good horse is something that, well, you know, the old thing about the opportunity to get one good horse in your lifetime that not only does everything you need him to do, but you actually really like him. And I've been fortunate that way. I've had a couple of good ones, and one in particular, and I actually wrote a song about it years ago, the old Bay song, and I actually gave my wife a chance to have that whole song be something different. I asked her what her favorite color horse was, and in practical fashion she said, what do you want to know for? And then, you know, the whole thing about color doesn't make any difference, and, you know, which we all know. And so I just said, all right, I'll just write it just the way I want to. So I wrote it about my old bay horse.
There's an old bay horse standing on the hillside in the shade of a lonely old oak tree, and he spends his days standing on the hillside dreaming of the times that used to be. Me, I spend my days out in the backyard, rocking the hours away in the cooling shade. And when I look up to that horse, you know it ain't hard to recollect the times that used to be. And I know an old bay knows too, there ain't no job we couldn't do. And I'm proud of my old friend and all we done. And if we had half a chance, we'd ride the way we did back then. He's the best horse this old cowboy ever had. There was a time no other horse could match him, find a mount no cowboy ever rode. And in his day no challenge was too daring. Those days are gone, now he's too old. As I look back, there are things that I am proud of. I made it through the good times and the bad. And I'm proud of my old friend standing on the hillside, 'cause Old Bay's the best horse that I ever had. And I know an old bay knows too, there ain't no job we couldn't do. And I'm proud of my old friend and all we've done. And if we had half a chance, we'd ride the way we did back then. He's the best horse this old cowboy ever had. Old Bay's the best horse that I ever had.
Jay Parson and Old Bay. And boy, I love that pure acoustic sound, just the way you sang it and played it here, just you and your guitar.
I was thinking about that the other day, and, you know, I thought that was very personal, just, you know, me, my good old horse. But, you know, there's a common thread in that song and that thought that rings true for a whole lot of people. And it's, you'd think it's a horse song, but, you know, maybe it's a people song just as much. Because there's so many people that say, I had a horse like that. Mm-hmm. You know? and it touches them, you know.
Yeah, well, that's what it did to me, is brought back memories of one or two I can really remember over the years that I trusted my life to, and situations I should have never put them in. Yeah,
never let you down, you know.
Did you have any specific episodes that you and Old Bay got through that looked like at the time maybe you shouldn't have started into that, but he got you through?
Well, hell, he's kind of the horse to take care of me, you know. So he wouldn't let us get too deep before I'd realize that ain't something we want to do.
Yeah.
You know. So he's just good, just that, you know, not the best at any one thing, just good at everything.
Yeah.
Probably just all around kind of, and not really a people horse, you know. I mean, he's a little snorty.
Yeah. Did you start him as a colt?
No. I bought him from a guy that all he'd done, he'd packed mules in the mountains. And my old horse, at that time I think he was 4. But he was grown out good and bred good, and had that experience behind him. But I don't think he'd ever worked a cow before. Never had a rope thrown off him or anything like that. And but he just had that potential. He's an athlete, you know, and just handy and willing to do it, you know. And so, you know, I don't lay a whole lot of stock in any one time that he did this or that. He's just always there and always good. Yeah. And if I could find another one right now, I'd buy him in a heartbeat. I don't think I could make another horse like that. Yeah. If I had a chance, I'd trade several horses that I got right now for one that to do that.
Your inventory still pretty big?
Oh, I still got too many horses, just like.
How many's too many, Jake?
Oh, I don't know.
You haven't counted them for a while?
No, I haven't inventoried them lately, but I know there's too many. There's 20 something.
I kind of agree. You can't have too many horses, or I would add too many guitars. Anyway, there'll be more from Jay Parson and next Baxter Black in the story of the shipwrecked cowboys when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back after this with a little peek at calving at sea. Well, friends, thanks for listening. It'll be no surprise that I've published a beautiful new hardback book called A Commotion in Rhyme. It fits in the bunkhouse, the outhouse, the bookstore, the library, or the cookbook. Unfortunately, it won't fit in a cupcake. A commotion? Oh. Call 800-654-2550 or BaxterBlack.com. Come to think of it, it might fit in a Caesar salad.
Doc, I've got a cabby heifer in need of your veterinary expertise. Can you come?
Roger looked out the exam room window at the dark clouds on that chilly Kansas afternoon. "Can't you bring her into the clinic, Charlie?" he asked over the phone.
"Sorry, Doc. She's down in the creek."
As Roger pulled onto the farm, sporadic raindrops were plopping on the windshield. Charlie met him with a tractor. They loaded 3 buckets full of veterinary paraphernalia and started slip-sliding their way across the quarter section to the cow. It was sprinkling when they finally reached the heifer. She lay like a beached porpoise beside the shallow creek that bisected the property diagonally. They tugged and grunted her away from the water's edge so Doc could get a feel. A quick examination revealed 2 front paws the size of Dumbos. Conclusion: C-section city. Well, Doc noticed as they rolled her left flank skyward that the creek was now lapping at her hull. They moved her again, further from the creek, and positioned her. He did a quick prep, spread a drape, and gloved up. As he poised the blade, the sky opened up and rain really began to pour. It didn't take long for him to reach the calf, but there was considerable concern about water entering the incision. It was comparable to a prairie dog trying to dig a hole at the foot of Hoover Dam. In the meantime, the creek had risen to the portholes. Charlie was gathering driftwood to prop the heifer's head up out of the water, and Doc was sewing like Betsy Ross on no-dos. Well, by the time he'd closed the uterus and the peritoneal inner layer, water was running over the tops of his 5-buckle overshoes. Charlie had set the shivering newborn under the tractor and was now holding the heifer's head out of the water as Doc began closing the hide. Then It really began to rain on our shipwrecked cowboys. "One more," said Doc as he swooped the last suture. "Good," said Charlie. "I hope it's watertight." Doc pulled tight and snipped. "Voila!" he exclaimed, and stood up. The heifer rose from the dry dock herself, wheeled in the current, and with nary a thanks or a bon voyage, floated off downstream. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan. Thanks for listening.
Nothing gives ranchers more satisfaction than seeing happy, healthy cows and their calves on native grass, because we care for our cattle. More and more producers are using Meloxicam oral suspension to minimize the stress on calves at branding time. Proven results and healthier, happier calves. To find out more, contact your vet and see solvet.ca. Meloxicam, because it's the right thing to do. There's a new way to treat scouring calves now without using antibiotics. Ask your vet about charcoal kaolin oral paste from Solvet. Just ahead of the Rangeland news, I've been trying to fit this song in as we get into the month of May for several years now, and I finally remembered it. A lot of truth in this one from Alan Christie, Alberta, May.
What's with the spring up here in Alberta? The weather don't know what to do. I'm just sitting here drinking coffee, trying to keep my mind off of you. Alberta, May, make up your mind. It's either cold as hell or warm sunshine. It's been a long, hard winter, but you could take the chill away. Alberta, May. Right now I think I must be dreaming. There's snow falling down in May. I've got a lot of things I should be doing. I'd call you, but I don't know what to say. Alberta, May, make up your mind. It's either cold as hell or warm sunshine. It's been a long, hard winter, but you can take the chill away. Alberta, May. Now ever since you've been gone, there's been a cold front running, but that ocean up would be blowing if you just come back again. Alberta, May, make up your mind. It's either cold as hell or warm sunshine. It's been a long, hard winter, but you can take the chill away. Alberta, May, make up your mind. It's either cold as hell or warm sunshine. It's been a long, hard winter, but you could take the chill away. Alberta, May.
Now the news of the Rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
Sticker shock in the checkout line. Boy, when we're in town buying groceries, it just seems like the bill is always bigger than we expected. But according to this report from Gary Crawford, maybe there's some relief coming.
Food prices at the grocery store. Are they going to end up in 2019 averaging more or less than a year ago? Agriculture Department analyst Anne-Marie Coons was forecasting a 1 to 2% price hike this year. However,
we did just lower that forecast slightly. We're now expecting to pay 0.5 to 1.5% more for groceries in 2019 than we did in 2018.
So price trends early in the year showing definite downward pressure. Coons has lowered price prospects for 9 food categories out of 19. One of the biggest changes in favor of the food shopper, pork.
Pork prices we're now expecting to decrease between 2 and 3%. Previously, we've been expecting those prices to potentially increase.
Foods that could potentially, possibly, maybe drop below last year include eggs, vegetable oils and such, fresh vegetables, and processed fruits and vegetables. On the definitely higher than last year price list, beef, poultry, fish, fresh fruit, and the cereal and bakery food group. That's the biggest expected price hike, 4 to 5%. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
Okay, Billy, dig out the bread maker. Well, Canadian beef exports to Japan made significant gains in 2019. Shipments in trade went up 40% from the same time last year. The increases are credited to Canada and Japan being part of the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trade Trans-Pacific Partnership. A couple of months is not a trend, said John Maswal of Canadian Cattlemen's Association. However, those numbers indicate renewed benefits for Canadian agriculture in Japan. The CPTPP is a positive agreement for Canada, said Aaron Fowler, Chief Agricultural Negotiator with Agriculture Canada. Canada appears to be shipping higher value beef products to Europe than Europe is shipping back to Canada. A big question remains regarding what happens when the United Kingdom leaves the EU trading bloc, Brexit. It's suspected that about 60% of the beef shipped to Europe ended up in the UK. And Canada can't start negotiating a trade agreement with the UK until its divorce from the EU is final. Western Canadian fed and feeder cattle markets are poised for volatile behavior over the next 4 to 6 months. U.S. first and second quarter beef production is expected to come in below a year ago. During the third and fourth quarters, there will be a sharp year-over-year increase in beef production. And as of late March, Alberta fed cattle were trading in the range of $154 to $156 on a live basis. And some experts wouldn't be surprised to see prices drop to a range of $138 to $140 by September. And the feeder market is also in a precarious situation. In late March, mixed steers averaging 850 pounds were trading in the range of $170 to $175 across the prairies. Calves from 500 to 550 pounds were readily selling from $225 to $232. Year-to-date Canadian feeder cattle exports to the U.S. Were up 27% over a year ago, and stronger exports have come on the heels of a 1% year-over-year decrease in the size of the Canadian calf crop. The well-known columnist, speaker, and consultant Brenda Shep and beef producer Stacy Simpson are the recipients of the Alberta Farm Animal Care Awards of Distinction for 2019. The awards recognize individuals or groups who have made exceptional contributions in the field of livestock welfare and who champion the best practices and innovative ideas. Brenda received the award for communication for her work as a mentor, speaker, and columnist, and Simpson received the Industry Leadership Award for her devotion to farm animal care on her family operation Lucky 7 Cattle Company near Sedgwick, Alberta. She was also praised for her sharing knowledge both with other producers and the public through events like Open Farm Days. The annual Spring Farm Machinery and Equipment Sale at the Kamloops Yards of the BC Livestock Co-op is Saturday, May the 11th at 10:30 a.m. You can get all the information and see all of that good stuff listed there at bclivestock.bc.ca. Meanwhile, at the Innisfail Auction Market, Innisfail, Alberta, a long-time family operation by the Danes family, their consignment equipment sale will be June the 25th, and regular cattle sales, of course, every Wednesday. Get all the details there at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And we are down to the final item. It seems the young, hopeful cowboy was riding along with a crusty old cow boss. And the young fellow said, I really wonder why I'm not getting to be a better hand. I've ridden for this outfit for nearly a year. And I wonder if you can tell me why I just don't seem to be getting any better. And the boss kind of looked his way and said, okay, kid, now, when we're riding along, have you seen the beautiful sand hill cranes flying across the sky? The kid says, oh, yeah. And then the boss says, and have you seen the white-tailed deer hiding in the trees as you ride by? Sure have, says the kid. And then the boss says, and have you seen those beautiful chocolate lilies growing over on the side hill? Oh, you bet I have, said the kid. Well, there's your problem, the cow boss says. You're gawking at all of this stuff and not paying any attention to the dang cows. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up in the Urban Saddles and Western Wear horse training file, what about turning your normally stabled horses out together in a big pasture? And there's more from Jay Parson when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. The Urban Saddles and Western Wear horse training file is coming right up first, though. It happens across the West, and I sure hope the traditions never end. Getting together every spring, helping neighbors, enjoying a great meal, what it's all about. And here's Gene Prescott.
It happens mostly in the spring when all the calves are here. Excitement builds as plans are made for branding day each year. The rancher calls a list of names he's jotted in his book. The wife starts making plans for all the things she's gonna cook. Biscuits, beans, and steak and gravy, fried taters piled up high, green beans from summer's garden, homemade cakes and pies. They'll wash it down with iced tea and coffee with dessert. And with the thank you ma'am, they'll tip their hats and get back out to work. He lines up vaccine bottles, she bakes a dozen pies. The day before they'll set up pins, she'll feed a dozen guys. Then finally Brandon Day arrives, he's lined up quite a bunch. She'll cook dinner and supper, along with that there's lunch. Biscuits, beans, and steak and gravy, fried taters piled up high, green beans from summer's garden, homemade cakes and pies. They'll wash it down with iced tea and coffee with dessert. And with the thank you ma'am, they'll tip their hats and get back out to work. Of course, the more help he has, the more she has to do. It takes a lot of beef and beans to feed a Brandon crew. After hauling chairs and tables and working several days, Brandon's finally over and she crawls in bed and prays. If I should die before I wake, I pray I never have to bake another cake, another pie on that big ranch way up in the sky. But soon the rooster's crowing and fresh new day begins, and it won't be long till next year when it's Brandon Day again. Biscuits, beans, and steak and gravy, fried taters piled up high, green beans from summer's garden, homemade cakes and pies. They'll wash it down with iced tea and coffee with dessert. With the thank you ma'am, they'll tip their hats and get back out to work. With the thank you ma'am, they'll tip their hats and get back out to work.
Here's what a few folks have said about the Spirit of the West cruises.
We had a lot of fun. One of the best cruises I've been on with you.
I've already put my deposit down for the next year's cruise, so sure we'll see you again.
Yeah, it's a good crowd.
I've met excellent people and I couldn't ask for a better trip. The people were just like family. People look out for each other and it's great. It's a great experience.
And they're just dedicated to helping you enjoy your holiday. I think that's what I really like about cruising.
That's what makes it so nice, is that there are so many folks that are from the background, the way we were brought up on farms and ranches.
Our 2019 cruise will be something we've wanted to do for a long time. August 29th, we'll fly to Dublin, Ireland. We'll visit an Irish thoroughbred breeding farm, be hosted by the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation. Then we'll sail to some historic and beautiful places, Cork, Belfast, and then Glasgow and Inverness, Scotland. We might even get pictures of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. And we'll have stops in Paris and London. Get all the information at 1-800-530-0131. And check out our Spirit of the West cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com and our cruise Facebook page.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Springtime, it's a wonderful time. It's all about bumblebees, butterflies, and bulls. So suit up for rodeo season with Urban Tack and Western Wear. Boots and belts, jeans and shirts, hats and accessories. All the top names too. Priced right so you can celebrate the season with a whole new wardrobe. My friends at Urban's will take good care of you. So stop by Canada's largest Western store today. Exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield.
Don't just wear it, live it. Urban Tack and Western Wear.
And of course, you know there's free shipping on anything over $100 when you buy online at urbanssaddles.ca. Well, it seems like when we go to town for supplies, we spend most of the time visiting with folks we know. And more often than not, we talk about our cattle or our horses. Met some folks last week and they were saying they have a good barn, nice facilities, small paddocks, and about a 40-acre pasture, and they said their horses were kept in box stalls most of the time, and they were afraid to turn them out in the pasture. One, because they said they might not catch them again to bring them back in. Two, they were afraid to turn them out with the other horses because they might start fighting and get hurt. And three, they worried about them eating more grass than is good for them. But the horses were developing some bad habits, like cribbing and chewing on the stall boards, weaving and pawing continually, and pinning their ears when they were being fed. Well, you know, the more you put a horse in a confined area and don't give him the opportunity to socialize with other horses and interact with them like they normally would in a herd environment, the horse has to find a way to deal with that stress and that energy. And a lot of horses deal with it by developing these stall vices. Now, if I have a horse that doesn't want to be caught in the open, that tells me I've got some work to do in our relationship. And of course, turning them out with a group of horses they don't know or haven't had a chance to socialize with is very risky. But if it's managed carefully in a pasture with minimal hazards, it'll be okay. But it can take up to maybe 3 or 4 weeks of supervision. As far as eating too much grass, that can be a problem, especially early in the year when the sugar content's high. The biggest risk, of course, is founder, and a lot of horses will get a little hyper on a steady diet of lush grass, especially if it's got a lot of leafy legumes in it. So it takes some management, but I really feel that a group of horses where the pecking order is well established, running free in a big safe pasture is where they are the happiest. And often they'll be much easier to work with when they're under saddle. Even if the turnout time is only a couple of hours a day, I really think it helps. And for Urban Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. Something that keeps our horses doing well is that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. You can find out all about it at hoffmanshorseration.com. 20 horses, 15 top ranch horses, and 5 prospects at the Leask Auctions Ranch Horse Competition and Sale, May 18th at Lakota Agriplex, Dawson Creek, BC. See the horses performing a real ranch horse competition at 10 a.m. and the sale starts at 2:30. There's a beautiful trophy saddle and added money for the winner. For more information, see leaskauctions.com. That's LEASK auctions.com. Jay Parson has a lot of songs that really tell stories, whether they be about good horses or old cowboys like this one, and he'll talk about the inspiration for it after you hear He Wore a Blue Bandana.
He wore a blue bandana tied neat around his neck, and his spurs would lightly jingle with his horse's every step. He was a cowboy, there was no doubt, and he sang songs of the life he knew about, and he'd tell old stories at the close of day, and we'd listen to the songs that he would play. He sang of drifting cowboys and life out on the road, working in the saddle, and the times he was alone. He could make you laugh or make you cry as he sang you some old cowboy lullaby. And the fire burned low, and we'd find our beds and drift off to the words that he had said. And he'd sing Old Bay and the strawberry rum, and we'd hang on every word and sing along. He'd open up his heart, you could sure believe. Every time you heard the cowboy sing, he said that he'd punch cattle from the mountains to the plains. He'd dust in old West Texas, and he'd slip out in the rain, and he'd just smile, no, he'd not complain, as he sang about the pleasure and the pain. Gather up his feelings, his old guitar, when he sang about the girl who broke his heart. Then he'd sing Old Bay and the strawberry rum, and we'd hang on every word and sing along. He'd open up his heart, you could sure believe. Every time you heard the cowboy sing, then one day he went missing. He was gone without a track, in search of greener pasture, and he never did come back. He packed his ponies and he rode away, but the stories and the songs, they still remain. And he still rides on when I sing along. Every time I hear a cowboy song, and he'd sing Old Bay and the strawberry rum, and we'd hang on every word and sing along. He'd open up his heart, you could sure believe. Every time you heard the cowboy sing, he'd open up his heart, you could sure believe. Every time you heard the cowboy sing.
And Jay, when I first heard that, I really wondered who or what inspired it.
Well, it's one I'd kind of thought about, and I'd heard a few conversations about why in the world would somebody create music about what they do in the Western lifestyle, and then I got to doing it, and I got to wondering why I bothered to create anything and write lyrics, write music, and so I came up with that idea, and I like colored blue a lot, you know, and so I dressed that old boy in a blue bandana, and he inspired the singer of the song through his storytelling and his music and his old stories, and around the fire, and he'd sing them to sleep and tell stories till they're gone for the night, and I figure that song has all the elements, you know. It's cowboy stuff, and he's working cows, and he's been around everywhere, and then he gets his heart broke, and then at the end of the song he rides away, you know, just like the old movies. And in a way, the basics of it are a little bit autobiographical, probably, like, you know, what inspired you to do this. And
the music, it reminds me of a lot of old cowboys that I've seen, might have known someplace. Sometimes some of the best horsemen in the world and some of the most creative wordsmiths, songwriters, and singers are living in a cow camp someplace, or they're out with a wagon somewhere that nobody has ever heard of.
That's right. I have a theory. I call it world's fastest human. My theory on the world's fastest human, then I transpose this. But I just figure the world's fastest human, man who's run the fastest of all, he didn't run the Olympics. He didn't set the world's record. He was running from some critter somewhere. And if you'd had a stopwatch on him, he probably ran faster than any human's ever run anywhere. And so, how in the world does that come back around to music? Probably the sweetest song, the clearest voice, the most perfect message that you could ever think of, you've never heard, because it's some old boy or some gal who's just gathered up, maybe just by themselves, off somewhere. They're in the kitchen, or they're in front of the fire, or they're out back on the porch, and they're not playing for anybody else other than just for their own satisfaction. And if anybody ever heard that, they would just absolutely die, because it's so beautiful and so expressive.
Coming up is this week's classic Song of the West, and then an awesome piece of cowboy poetry that hits right to the heart of old cowboys when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West for this week's Western classic song. It's one written by the legendary Cindy Walker and recorded on Bob Wagner's very first multi-track album, where he sings all the parts and plays all the instruments.
The end of the trail for a cowpuncher makes his mind echo back over a lot of hoofbeats. He trades his saddle for a rocking chair and learns to do his range riding on a swayback cloud in a dusty sky. Yes, the old Wrangler dreams. The old Wrangler dreams in an old rocking chair, dreaming he's back in the saddle on his old cow pony, Smoky, herding cattle on the plain. The firelight that gleams on his silvery hair could be a campfire a-burning. Sorta hurts your heart to see him there a-yearning, all alone. The old Wrangler sighs for the pals that are gone. They check their reins up yonder, down his weather-beaten face a tear will wander as he dreams.
Rod McQuarrie wrote this week's piece of cowboy poetry, and it's wonderfully recited here by Joel Nelson, The Men Who Ride No More.
Bronc to breakfast, calendars hang fading on the walls. There's a lost and aimless wandering through corridors and halls of slippered feet that shuffle on a waxed and polished floor, and vacant stares of emptiness from men who ride no more. Men who once rode proudly, men with long straight backs, men who covered hill and plain with steel-shod horses' tracks, now pass their idle days in rooms with numbers on the door. with orderlies and nurses for the men who ride no more. Time was when spur rowels jingled when boot heels bumped the floor, dawns with hot black coffee, saddling up at 4, with feet in tapaderos and broncs between their knees, silken neck scarves snapping as they turned into the breeze. From full-blown living legends, true to riding for the brand, to the scarcely mediocre who could hardly make a hand, they would gather for the brandings and the shipping in the fall. Now it's walker, cane, and wheelchair in the antiseptic hall. And they all have their mementos on the table by their side, like a cracked and fading snapshot of a horse they used to ride, or standing with the wife beside a 37 Ford, high heel boot hooked nonchalant on a muddy running board. Just instants frozen from the past that somehow give a clue to who and what they were before their riding days were through. Horseback men with horseback rules from horseback days of yore. Their one and only wish would be to somehow ride once more. To once more rope a soggy calf and drag it to the fire, to long trot for a half a day and see no post or wire, to ride a morning circle, catch a fresh one out at noon and trot him in when day was done to the rising of a moon, to put in one more horseback day and have just one more chance to ride home to a pretty wife and drive her to a dance, to take her hand and hold her close and waltz across a floor before the time to join the ranks of men who ride no more.
Well, thanks again for making the ride, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. By the way, you can order any and all of Jay Parsons' music at his website, jparson.com. As always, thanks to our great support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. See Mark's page, bctractorparts.com, for all your parts requirements. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.